Shall we?
Hey, comic guys and gals. I'm Joe, and you're once again on one of the best channels that my mother and sister love, the Anachronic Comics channel. Welcome, everybody. So here today with another episode of DC Watched, one of the greatest shows you've ever never seen before. And so if this is the first time here, welcome. If you've been here before, welcome back. I've got my usual two foils with me. We have Dave from Action Figure Comedy, and we have Lenny from Pretty Fly. For a Filipino guy, my two buds, my two DC buds. So we have all watched Black Adam over the last few days. I was there Thursday, as was Dave, and I think you were there Saturday, Pretty Fly, if I remember correctly. So we all feel that we have some first impressions about this movie. But, you know, I for one, and I think Dave and pretty much feel the same way, would love to see it again before we really give like our big Narakam Sock'em type of reviews. So these are our first initial impressions of the movie, what we think, and so forth. All right. So, I mean, you guys agree with that approach, right?
Absolutely.
So, Dave, I think you have something special for us with respect to this, too. So why don't you start us off?
It's a song and dance, Joe. No. Okay. So there's a person on social media by the name of Tasman Humphreys who has her own brand as the Aspiring Kryptonian, who I've had some communication with. She's a great content creator. She also sort of lives in that journalistic space as well. She's interviewed comic book creators, sat down with Pierce Brosnan and some other stars of Black Adam, and had a brief interview with them. So she's great. If you're not following her, follow her on via the Aspiring Kryptonian on your social media platforms. And we were sort of talking about our impression. She wrote a review. She loved it, and she asked my thoughts. And so what I'm going to do is read to you guys what I wrote to her. So full disclosure, I usually need a second viewing to solidify my opinion when it comes to films that have me excited, and Black Adam definitely had me excited. Typically I'm disappointed in a movie the first time around, and then I allow it to be what it is the second time I see it, and that's when my opinion really becomes my opinion. So here goes. There were moments that I loved in this film. Everything about Black Adam's origin and the way they unspooled it throughout the movie, I thought was amazing. I'm a big fan of Jeff Johns and Gary Frank's Shazam backup stories in the New 52 Justice League, and I knew there was a certain twist that was coming. It also goes without saying that mid-credit scene might be my favorite post-film credit scene ever. Phenomenal. I loved it. I loved it. It was no spoilers.
Wait, there was a post-credit?
Lenny, you left the movie theater?
Dang it. Dude.
The effects were tremendous. The cinematography was terrific, and the music was top-notch. I agreed with her assessment about Brosnan as Fate and Hodges as Hawkman. I thought they were outstanding. I was also really impressed with Swindell as Cyclone, and Centineo. If I don't know if I pronounced his name correctly, Centineo was perfectly fine as Atom Smasher. I thought he was solid. It worked. So if it feels like there's a but coming, there is. And this is why I opened with, I usually like a film better on the second viewing or the second time around. I couldn't help but feel that all of these things that I liked about this film added up to something a bit less than the sum of its parts. As has been noted by, frankly, critics who liked the film and critics who didn't like the film, the villain was underdeveloped. I liked the choice to use Sabak. I wish we'd spent a little bit more time with him. And Star Wars is kind of my go-to explanation when it comes to that. The reason we despise Darth Vader so much in that original film is that we get a fair amount of scenes with him, usually doing something dastardly. I don't get to say dastardly enough. And we got some of that with Ishmael slash Sabak. I really think we needed more. The plot was fine, but the way the story played out, sometimes it felt like things were happening and happening really quickly. I had some issues with the pacing, but they happened because the movie needed them to happen, versus unfolding organically. That first hour had
Hmm.
so much in it and moved so fast. I felt like the story didn't quite get a chance to breathe in the way it needed to. Um, Honestly, for me, the humor felt a bit forced, and it felt a bit forced, but it probably didn't help that I had seen an awful lot of the jokes in the trailers and commercials that are on social media. So, that may have impacted how I felt about it because I'd seen them so many times. So that's kind of a lot of information. Hopefully, I avoided some spoilers. And I wanted to love this movie. I really did, desperately, and I did love some of the film. Everything about his origin, the Shazam connection, Shazam related, was phenomenal. But I felt like too much of the movie felt a bit like action sequences looking for a story. Um, at least that's my first impression. So I will see it again, and I could possibly, come back and say, ignore everything I said. This movie works perfectly. Who knows? Uh, so that's
You're
basically
so
what I
fickle.
said.
You're so
So
fickle.
no, I know myself. Like, as you guys, as I said in the last video, I really disliked Man of Steel the first time. I now like it. I don't love it, but I like it. So this film, like, there a lot I liked, and I'm avoiding the spoilers, and we'll get into that later. But I did have some real issues with it. So you know, if I had to give it a grade, my harsh grade now is a C, and I think my more forgiving grade is a B. So even though I thought there were a lot of A+ moments in this film, and there was a lot I really did like. So take it away, Lenny.
Okay, Lenny, what do you
Ooh,
think? What's your initial impressions, non-spoilery?
I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the movie like a lot. Um, and like I think I'm more forgiving about all the stuff that people criticize because I think it's an introduction. My only reference really to Black Adam and even Shazam is from that animated movie, the Superman Shazam movie.
Okay. Yeah.
um, and maybe a few episodes of Justice League
Yes.
Limited.
Yeah.
Yeah, so really, I'm pretty much like a normie for this movie. So and like for me, it's like every time I leave a theater, I just ask myself, did I like the movie? And the answer is yes for this one. I mean, we can go deeper to some stuff I didn't like, but my general overview is like I did enjoy this movie. Yeah.
Okay, so here's my initial impression. First of all, with these type of superhero movies, the one thing I do is say, did I enjoy it? And I
Hmm.
think the answer is yes. And would I watch it again? Yes. As a matter of fact, Dave, taking your cue, I think it's not a bad idea to see it again. Um,
Hmm.
Batman versus Superman: Dawn of Justice. Actually, watching the extended cut make me really love that movie, which I didn't
Yeah.
before I saw it.
Hmm.
So I'll start with that. But there were some acting, put it that way, that I didn't like and maybe even annoyed me in some respects. Um, I would have, conduct was there, but I mean, just like I guess Gotham City is always a character in Batman movies, I would have
Hmm.
liked to see more of conduct, whether it's the old one or the new one. And some of that goes into what I agree with you is development. Um,
Yeah.
I'll just give you one example with the JSA. You saw, Hawkman and Doctor Fate, who were like the older one, older character, JSA members, seeming to bring along Atom Smasher and
Cyclone.
Cyclone. Thank you. I keep on wanting to say Whirlwind for some reason. Cyclone, you know, and they were kind of okay, but gee, there's a history there, right? Why
Mhm.
not have something that gives us more of a background as to why they were the way they were. You just have to take it on faith. And we've read comic books, so we kind of can fill in some of the blanks, but you want to see it, right? So that's just one instance that where I agree with you, Dave, where there could have been more development to help us along.
And Joe, do you mind if I jump? I want to call back to a great point that you made in our first video. When you were talking about when you have team up videos with multiple
Yeah,
superheroes, you felt they should be 3 hours in length or longer.
I was
This
going to
was a
say that. Yeah,
2 hour film.
yeah. Mhm.
And I know, as Lenny has rightly pointed out, they try and sometimes keep runtime lower so they can show the film more often, get more people in the seats, make more money.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
was going to talk about that a little bit. I
Sorry,
think it should have
sorry,
been
Joe.
longer. I think they needed to be development. I think being longer. I do think that the humor. I mean, some people in the theater seemed to giggle or laugh at a few of the things, especially between Hawkman and Atom Smasher. Uh, you know, but to me, it kind of didn't do anything. To be honest with
Yeah.
you, I know
Yeah,
they tried to have a little bit of levity there,
yeah,
but the action was really fast paced.
yes.
And although you said the beginning went kind of fast, I thought it dragged for me.
Hmm.
You know, I mean, it wasn't bad. Don't get me wrong,
Yeah.
but I think they could have either they should have more backstory and make it fuller,
Hmm.
or they could have cut all that stuff out, and you still would have got the whole idea that he's a monster person killer and all the rest of that type of stuff.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
to me, it kind of so you have that first act, and none of it was bad. Don't get me wrong. You have
No,
that first
no.
act. Then you have the second act where the JSA's coming in, and you see, Hawkman in the trailer saying, "We're here to negotiate your peaceful surrender." And he goes, "I don't surrender, and I don't,
I'm not
whatever,
peaceful and I don't
and I
surrender.
don't negotiate, and I don't surrender." So that's basically the second act, the way that I see it. And then the
Mhm.
third act was really kind of like and most good movies have that, at least in my view. Some people may not like it, but the third movie generally has the act where they go up against the big bad. Things happen during that time, and Superman versus Batman. You've got Doomsday. That's the third act.
Right.
In
Spoilers, Joe.
it's Zod is the third act, and even in the first Wonder Woman, who was it? Ares was the third act,
Harry.
right? The whole everything's going nuts. Things are blowing up, stuff is happening, and the hero wins the day. All right.
Yeah.
I know we could have developed the evildoer a little bit more, but that didn't seem to be the purpose of that film. I think Sabat was there just to have that third act.
Hmm.
That was it. So he
Yeah.
played his purpose there. I don't know if that's good or bad. I'm all for developing things, maybe seeing Sabat kill a few more people or do something bad,
I think
or
it could have
or
been
see
better.
his former
Yeah.
self doing something, so you know what the new self could be doing.
Like he seemed to be, even his connection to the villains seemed to be a little bit vague. Do you know
Yeah,
what I'm
right.
saying?
Okay. But that to me was like the third act, and I think that was in my. I mean, I like the second act a lot, and I kind of like the third act a lot. You know,
Mhm.
I didn't like the first act as much, to be honest with you. So I think that's kind of the way I saw it. I think it was a subpar story, to be honest with you. I think they could have done a little bit more with the story to make the movie better, but I enjoyed it. I'll watch it again, you know, and I do think that it set the stage for a lot that could happen in the future.
Um, Now, part of the reason I really wanted to love it is I'm a huge fan of the sort of Shazam verse. That goes back to childhood, Shazam, Black Adam. The one comic book, the one Shazam comic book I owned as a kid, when I was really little, was the one where Black Adam came back. It's a second appearance. Um, and I remember reading that several times. So I had Shazam, Black Adam. I just thought it was great. The Jeff Johns, David Goyer run of JSA that had Shazam and Black Adam is phenomenal. So I really love these. I love the Shazam film. Loved it. I can't wait
Yeah,
for Fury of the Gods. But another reason I really wanted to love this film is Dwayne Johnson. And I have immeasurable respect for him. And it's not about the $7 and working hard and becoming a success, although those things are admirable. But I think we all know there are a lot of people on this planet who are very successful who aren't you know, the most admirable people of all time. Um, it comes down to who he is as a person, and the way he handles himself and the way he treats others. He is humble. He's thoughtful. He's funny. He's self-effacing. He is just a good person to others from everything I've seen. Um, and the two things I think that are closest to superpowers in real life are fame and wealth. And he's got both. And what I've seen him do with his fame, the way he's used it to make others feel good, to give them a thrill, to make their day, their year, I think is remarkable. He does it. He seems to do it consistently, and I love that about him.
I mean, I think what I see here is
Right.
he's been developing this for such a long time, and I think the really good, excuse me, the really good news we get is I think he's got Black Adam down, at least the Jeff Johns
Right.
version. He's got Black Adam down. He
Right.
knows what that Black Adam is, and he portrayed him, I think,
No, totally,
in
totally
the best
agree.
possible way. I mean, in my mind, he's Black Adam now. I mean,
Yeah,
I can't
I
Right.
see
hear you.
Right.
it was
Oh,
like
But
Cavill with Superman. Okay,
mhm.
so we've given you our initial non-spoilery statements, our impressions of the movie. So go out and see the movie.